Hi, this is going to be a voice-over video only. It's going to remain in still shot for the entirety. The still shot is referencing the Instagram post that I put on Instagram, and I'm going to be reading the actual post. I find that I read some amazing posts from Instagram, Facebook, and on personal blogs that just move me. And I know when I'm reading them, sometimes I read them in my own voice, and I would love to hear the author behind the words. So I'm doing this for myself as well as anybody who might be interested. The other thing is, when I'm journaling personally, a lot of times after a really powerful journal entry, I'll sit back and read it out loud when I'm home alone. And I usually actually learn more from reading it back out loud, and I'll take some additional journal notes. So for anybody who's interested in getting deeper in your journaling or deeper in your feelings as you move on in your life, maybe you try reading out loud. So this is my Instagram post as follows. I'm going to read this for you. Memories are a funny thing. This is my first sewing pattern ever, from junior high sewing class around 1977 or 78. Don't make me do the math. During that point in my life, I had given up dreams of being an Olympic roller skater. Yep, good old four wheels too. Now I was sure I had found my calling. Beyond being an Egyptologist and a teacher, this was finally what I was to do. Sew or teach sewing, something in the field. But I knew this was the call. Almost 40 years later, it still calls. I have worked in the sewing industry in many areas for a long time until I retired somewhat to be a stay-at-home mom to my own 12-year-old daughter. Finding this pattern has brought up a lot of memories, some good, some not. Being human, you know. There is something it is showing me. Sadly, my mother was so angry at me for signing up for this class because it came with a supplies cost. I was so excited with my material list in hand, I explained to her we needed to go to the House of Fabrics. They gave a student discount. In the store, as I gathered my notions and picked my fabric, dark teal stretch terry, iridescent to boot, my little sewing kit of scissors, pins, and a tracing wheel. That aged me. The basics. I watched the sales lady roll out my shiny disco-style fabric, so excited to think it would turn into the best tracksuit ever. The entire time having my mother tapping her foot in disgust over paying good money for fabric. The years of sewing classes I took all through high school warranted the same response every time. It didn't deter me. In all of the desires of my heart in these 50-plus years, sewing has been a constant. I remember as a little girl, my grandma was using a brown grocery sack to make patterns for my sister and I to have matching dresses. She, of course, said they were for other little girls our size. I believe before that first sewing class, this love was placed in my heart. The love has been at highs and lows at different times. Life, you know? Certainly, the World Wide Web spurns desire, as it is a vast resource of creativity. I have other interests for sure, some that have captured me almost as long. However, sewing feels like an old shoe or robe you can't get rid of nor want to. I come from some difficult stuff, and sewing feels like the safe place. Even dreaming of projects, organizing fabrics and patterns, it simply feels safe. As I reflect on this young girl's sewing pattern, I want to thank it for sticking around all these years. While many things have happened in this 50-plus years of life, I have you sewing, the one true safe place. Even my mother's displeasure at taking me and having to pay for fabric. Sewing was stronger than that, and it stuck around, and it's still here. It's still constant, and I still love it. I am not the most prolific, talented, or knowledgeable seamstress. I am not a big fish in the online sewing community. However, what I know is with every stitch, or dream of stitching, that constant comfort brings me safety in a world that doesn't always feel safe. Dear sewing, you are my best friend. We have shopped together, we have dreamed together, had coffee together, and most important, we are still together. That ends my post, and I hope that you somewhat enjoyed this. Please look what brings you safety and happiness and comfort in life, and it can be something as simple as sewing.